Welcome back, everyone, and get ready because we have some major breaking developments in the NFL world, and specifically surrounding the Dallas Cowboys, that have fans buzzing, analysts debating, and the football community speculating about the future of some of the team's biggest stars. When you hear a name like Adam Schefter, you know it's serious. This is not a random blogger, not a small outlet fishing for clicks. This is the most respected and well-connected insider in the league, someone who has direct lines to front offices, agents, and players. And now Schefter has set the football world on fire by suggesting that what he's calling a potential divorce between Micah Parsons and the Cowboys could actually be looming on the horizon. Yes, you heard that right. Micah Parsons, the heart and soul of the Dallas defense, the generational pass-rushing phenom, and one of the faces of the franchise, might not have a long-term future in Dallas. This is the kind of revelation that shakes the foundation of a fan base, because when a player of Parsons' caliber is even mentioned in the same breath as divorce or split, it means there are serious concerns behind the scenes. And when you add ESPN's deep dive on Trevon Diggs and some of the ongoing roster moves to this storyline, you begin to understand why the Cowboys are suddenly at the center of one of the most dramatic NFL narratives of the preseason. Let's start with Micah Parsons because this is where the firestorm truly begins. Parsons has been nothing short of spectacular since arriving in Dallas as a first-round pick. His combination of speed, power, and relentless pursuit has made him one of the most feared defensive players in football. He's not just a sack artist, he's a game wrecker, someone opposing offenses have to completely retool their game plans around. And yet, for all of his dominance on the field, there has been an undercurrent of tension building off of it. Over the past year, Parsons has made comments about feeling underappreciated, about wanting his role to be more clearly defined, and about his desire to not just be pigeonholed as a pass rusher. At the same time, the Cowboys front office has been sending mixed messages praising him publicly but also making moves that raise questions about whether they truly see him as the cornerstone to build the defense around for the next decade. Now, Adam Schefter stepping into this conversation changes everything. Schefter is not the kind of journalist to toss around words like divorce lightly. If he's hinting at the possibility of Parsons and Dallas going their separate ways down the road, it means that league insiders are starting to question whether the relationship between player and team can withstand the financial negotiations and the personal dynamics that are coming. Parsons is nearing the point where a massive contract extension will be necessary, and you can guarantee it will be one of the richest defensive contracts in NFL history. The Cowboys, on the other hand, are facing a roster crunch with big money tied up in Dak Prescott, with CeeDee Lamb awaiting his own payday, and with questions about how much financial flexibility they really have to keep everyone happy. A divorce in this context may not mean an immediate trade or release, but it does point to the possibility that if Dallas doesn't pay Parsons what he feels he's worth, another team will happily step up and do it. This is where the drama really deepens, because the Cowboys are not just dealing with Parsons. ESPN has now brought Trevon Diggs into the spotlight, analyzing his situation after a season where injuries and inconsistency clouded what had once been an upward trajectory. Diggs, of course, was given a major contract extension not long ago, one that made him one of the highest-paid cornerbacks in the league. But the question being asked now is whether Dallas got ahead of themselves, and whether the injuries and recent play raise long-term concerns about that deal. ESPN insiders have pointed out that while Diggs has an elite ceiling, his aggressive style of play comes with risk, and the Cowboys' defensive success can't solely rest on a boom or bust corner. If Parsons were to truly grow disgruntled, and if Diggs is not living up to the lofty expectations attached to his paycheck, Dallas suddenly finds itself in a precarious spot where their defensive identity, something they've leaned on heavily in recent seasons, becomes shaky. But it's not just Parsons and Diggs. The Cowboys roster as a whole is in flux, and that's what makes all of this speculation even more volatile. Jerry Jones and the front office have been making moves, some subtle and some more dramatic, to tweak the depth chart ahead of the season. from shifting pieces along the offensive line to evaluating the running back rotation after the departure of Ezekiel Elliott, to deciding whether young talents are ready to take the next step. Every decision feels amplified because of the looming contract battles with star players. When you combine Schefter's bombshell about Parsons with the ESPN scrutiny of Diggs, it creates a narrative that the Cowboys could be on the verge of another identity crisis, the kind of storyline that has plagued them for decades whenever expectations have been high. Think about the historical parallels here. The Cowboys have long been a franchise where stars shine brightly but often clash with the structure around them. We've seen it with Terrell Owens, with Dez Bryant, even with DeMarcus Ware toward the end of his Dallas career. The franchise has a reputation for struggling to balance egos, contracts, and long-term team building. Now with Parsons, who is young, immensely talented, and vocal about his role, the Cowboys are staring down the barrel of history repeating itself. If this relationship turns sour, it would not only be a massive blow to Dallas' immediate Super Bowl hopes, but it would also send shockwaves across the league as other teams line up to court one of the most dominant defenders in football. And yet, there's another angle here we have to consider. Could some of this drama be smoke and mirrors? Could Schefter's comments and ESPN's coverage be strategic leaks meant to apply pressure on the Cowboys' front office? After all, agents often use insiders to float narratives in order to strengthen their players' negotiating position. If Parsons and his team are already thinking about record-breaking contracts, what better way to turn the screws on Jerry Jones than to let it slip that a divorce is on the table? Fans know that Jerry, for all his bravado, hates negative press and hates the idea of losing stars, especially ones who define the franchise in the eyes of the national media. This could be a classic case of backroom chess, with both sides trying to maneuver into the best possible position before talks become official. Meanwhile, Trevon Diggs' situation becomes part of that same puzzle. If Diggs' deal turns into a cautionary tale where the Cowboys overcommit too early, it could make them more hesitant to throw the bank at Parsons, even though Parsons is on another level of impact. That's where the front office calculus becomes complicated. Do you lock up your superstar defensive weapon at all costs, risking future flexibility, or do you play hardball and risk alienating him to the point of no return? These are the kinds of choices that separate perennial contenders from franchises stuck in mediocrity. And let's not forget, the Cowboys haven't hoisted a Lombardi trophy since the mid-1990s. Every decision carries the weight of nearly 3 decades of frustration and unmet expectations. What makes this moment so fascinating is that it feels like a crossroads. On one hand, the Cowboys have an elite defense anchored by Parsons and potentially Diggs if he's healthy and consistent. They have CeeDee Lamb blossoming into a true number 1 receiver, and they still have Dak Prescott, who, while divisive, remains a top-half quarterback in the NFL. On the other hand, the financial realities of the NFL's salary cap mean that not everyone can get paid. Someone will inevitably feel undervalued, and in this case, the worst possible someone might be Parsons. If Adam Schefter is right, and if a divorce really is on the horizon, then Cowboys fans are going to need to brace themselves for a roller coaster of a season. Let's imagine the fallout for just a moment. If Parsons were ever to truly hit the trade market, the demand would be historic. Teams would line up with multiple first-round picks, star players, and creative packages to land him. He is that rare of a talent. But the very thought of Dallas letting him go would signal a franchise willing to hit reset on a defensive identity that has been its saving grace in recent years. And if Trevon Diggs' deal continues to look questionable, that would only compound the narrative that the Cowboys can't quite get it right when it comes to managing their stars. This is why Schefter's words matter so much. He's not predicting an imminent split, but he is warning that the ingredients for one are there, and they're simmering. Add in ESPN's analysis on Diggs, sprinkle in the uncertainty of roster moves, and suddenly the Cowboys are a team standing on the edge of a cliff. They could either solidify themselves as true contenders by resolving these tensions and securing their stars, or they could implode under the weight of contracts, egos, and front office indecision. For fans, this is equal parts terrifying and exhilarating. You want your team to be relevant, and the Cowboys certainly are. But relevance in this way comes with anxiety, because every new report, every new insider hint, feels like a potential turning point. Will Jerry Jones and company open the vault for Parsons and secure their defensive anchor for the next decade, or will stubbornness and hesitation lead to one of the most shocking splits in modern NFL history? Will Trevon Diggs bounce back and prove his worth, or will his contract be the start of a cautionary tale about paying for potential instead of consistent production? These are the questions dominating the NFL conversation right now, and they're not going away anytime soon. So buckle up, Cowboys Nation, because this season is shaping up to be one of the most pivotal in recent memory. The spotlight is on Dallas, as it always is, but this time the stakes feel even higher. Micah Parsons' future, Trevon Diggs' trajectory, and the roster moves being made today could define not just this season, but the next decade of Cowboys football. And as always, we'll be here to break it all down for you, keeping you updated on every twist and turn. Thanks for watching, and if you want to stay locked in on all the latest Cowboys news, rumors, and insider updates, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts on this potential Parsons-Cowboys divorce, and subscribe so you don't miss a single update. This story is only just beginning, and trust me, you're not going to want to miss what comes next.